All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to really focus in on a second name that was included in the Jeremy Fowler ESPN article when talking about different general manager candidates specifically for the New York Jets. Now, in the other video, we talked about Ryan Grigson, ex-Colts GM, obviously there during the whole Andrew Luck regime. But in this one, we're going to be talking about someone who has not been a general manager before, but looks to be in position to be snagging one of these GM openings in the near future. It's Jon-Eric Sullivan, current vice president of player personnel with the Green Bay Packers, and took over that role back in 2022. Sullivan is someone who has literally spent 20 plus years with the Green Bay Packers, working his way up. That's to hang in the NFL is one thing, but to stick with one franchise for 20 plus years, working your way up, up the totem pole. I mean, he legit started as an intern with the Green Bay Packers. And now we're looking, at his position 20 years later, and he's the vice president of player personnel. In other words, that's like the right-hand man to the general manager. You oversee the scouting department, you oversee the collegiate side of things, and you also manage things from a professional personnel standpoint as well. So it is a massive job, and, funny enough, this is the exact job that we were talking about Ryan Grigson having with the Minnesota Vikings. Lots of power in this position. Now, I think Sullivan is an interesting candidate because, obviously he'd be coming over from a well-ran organization of the Green Bay Packers, one of the best-ran teams in the National Football League. Someone who's been around some really great minds, whether it's a guy like Gutekunst, whether it's a John Dorsey in the past, Ted Thompson's another one. You look at all the great front office members that the Packers have had in the last 20 years, man, there's been a lot of them. So it's safe to assume, common sense would tell you, okay, if you pluck a guy like that, someone who is just, his DNA is the green and yellow, right? Green Bay Packers. The idea is that he would follow suit and try to build a very similar culture in his next landing destination. Which is obviously good news for the New York Jets because we are not well ran in the slightest, especially compared to teams like Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Buffalo, the Green Bay Packers, the Lions, and so forth and so on. So that is extremely alluring. You also look at the philosophy of the Green Bay Packers. To me, at least, it feels very inside out. We're going to build out the trenches and then attack the outside and the skill players. We're always going to make sure that we have a quarterback waiting in the wings, someone who has a lot of talent, someone who has a lot of upside and potential. We're going to build through the draft and then hit free agency to kind of fill in the cracks of the roster, or that occasional, home run swing every now and again. But for the most part, it's stick to the draft and then fill in as needed with free agency. Here's the big question though, right? Here's the kicker. Would he come to the Jets? And I think on the surface, right, just at face value, Woody Johnson calls Sullivan and says, here's the standard GM contract. I don't think he's taking it. I don't think he's taking it. I think for someone who is obviously comfortable within his current situation, the Green Bay Packers, again, being there for so long, I think it's going to take a little bit more from the Jets side of it to pry Sullivan away from Green Bay. What does that mean? Whether that's more money, whether that's a longer contract, whether it's more power, maybe it's all three. And keep in mind, GMs typically get longer contracts than coaches as is, but I'm talking like a long contract. Because also, Green Bay's model is not overnight success. It's not the LA Rams, right? At least LA Rams previously. It's not the Miami Dolphins. Trade for this guy, trade for this guy, trade for this guy, sign this guy, big contract here, big contract there. It's a slow build. So if Sullivan is looking at, a four-year contract, 5-year contract from Woody Johnson, he might look at that and say, hey, I want more time to build this thing. I want more security. I'm not coming to the best situation right now, and I'm leaving a fantastic position with the Green Bay Packers. I want more security. I want more money. I want to have time to build this thing. I don't want to be pressured by ownership, pressured by media to make certain moves. I'm doing it the way I want to do it. Which for me personally, I want the Jets to do. I want the Jets to go down that path. sustained success, long-term success. We can lose a player and we can be okay because we have someone waiting, behind that player that's prepared and ready to go. So again, would Sullivan actually take this job? I think the only way he would consider it, again, more money, longer deal, and potentially more power within the organization. So, I mean, if he could come in and say, Woody Johnson, no, we're not doing this, this idea or that idea, we're doing it my way, I think, it would maybe make some sense. But if Sullivan doesn't get that vibe from Woody, and by the way, this is not just looking at the Athletic article and assuming that everything is true in that. I personally don't think that everything is true in that. I'm just talking about macro perspective. The overall view on the New York Jets with or without that article is not the best ran organization. So in order to get one of the better candidates, you might have to sweeten the deal. And I don't really think there's anything wrong with that if you land the right guy. So that's my take on it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. I know times are dark right now for this Jets team, but man, I am so looking forward to general manager talk, head coaching talk. I actually just finished up doing a whole, I think it was 16 or 17-minute video on Kevin Stefanski, why I would love Stefanski with the Jets. But then a report just dropped literally as I was finishing editing, saying that Stefanski is not going anywhere. He's going to be with the Browns in 2025. So in the trash it goes. Anyway, thanks so much. And as always, go Jets.